no dogs, and no police. That's the sign at the cozy home of the Axes, a gang in Foshan City. But that won't intimidate this crazy cop, Captain Ip Man. He's telling the pretty girl at the door that nothing is above the law. Miss Qing Chuan is the daughter of the gang leader San Yi, and she won't let any cops in without a fight. Luckily, Ip Man is prepared for that. While the entire lobby is being destroyed by the battle, San Yi is calmly playing chess upstairs. He's just not the kind of guy that jumps out of the window at the sound of police sirens. Down in the lobby, the skinny Captain Ip Man is a lot tougher than everyone expected. Even Miss Qing Chuan has to join the fight herself, which doesn't stop him from making his way upstairs, defeating all these axes with nothing but his fists. They break into the private room at the same time as the chess game comes to a dramatic end. San Yi agrees to go with him, and we soon see why San Yi has nothing to fear. At the police station, Chief Yuan receives him with more hospitality than a resort guest could expect. He even has his men put up the Axe's emblem on the wall in his honor. Captain Ip Man has to remind the chief that San Yi must be taken to a prison cell. Later that day, Ip Man comes to visit San Yi in his cell. It's not an interrogation because it's obvious that the cop already knows pretty much everything. One of San Yi's men was collaborating with the Japanese to smuggle opium into Foshan. The traitor was terminated, but not before naming his accomplice, that guy who was playing chess with San Yi. So despite the obvious differences, Ip Man and the gangster share the same goal. They want to stop the opium trade in the city, which means a direct confrontation with the Japanese dealers. The next morning, Captain Ip Man orders his men to search the Japanese commerce chamber. While they're leaving, an old man in beggar's clothes stumbles into the captain, apparently by accident. Then he finds in his pocket a piece of paper that wasn't there before. At the Japanese Commerce Chamber, the police officers are inspecting several large boxes. When the first one is open, they see it contains a huge pile of banknotes, and other boxes are just the same. Then a voice comes from the back of the room. It's Mr. Sasaki, the new chairman of the Commerce Chamber, claiming to have Foshan's best interests at heart. He says it's only fair that the policemen's bravery should be rewarded. He tells them to go ahead and take all the cash they can carry. The vice captain looks at Mr. Sasaki with some suspicion, but then he looks at the banknotes in a much different way. Meanwhile, Ip Man has followed the mysterious man and asks him about the note. The man says he must hurry up if he wants to see San Yi for the last time. And we can see the man is not bluffing, as a shady couple comes into the prison cell. Ip Man rushes back to the station, but it's too late when he gets there. San Yi has already bit the dust. When he sees the Axe's emblem coming down, he says they should put up a Japanese flag instead. Chief Yuan's version of the events is that San Yi took his own life to escape the punishment. But Ip Man is not that dumb and he knows better. There was no way for the murder couple to get inside a prison cell without an insider help. Chief Yuan justifies his lack of integrity by showing him a bruise on his neck. He says he was forced to choose between saving a gangster or his own life. It doesn't help his case much that he is saying all of this with a big smile on his face though. Ip Man says there's no reason to wear a police costume if he can't serve justice while in it. And then he rushes home because he's just been told that his wife is in labor. Back at the Axes, Miss Qing Chuan is devastated that her father passed away and she wants revenge. Planning to attack Ip Man and offer him as a sacrifice in her dad's honor, she tells her men to gather everyone and count their money. When Ip Man gets home, an unexpected guest is waiting for him. It's that mysterious guy from earlier, and he's complaining about the lack of wine in the house. Ip's wife, Wen Sing, is giving birth to their first child in the bedroom, and the midwife is shouting requests through the closed door. A young police officer named Ribby is also in the house, and he tells the stranger that he must respect Ip Man's house at such a delicate moment. The stranger responds to that with a piece of chicken to Ribby's face, followed by kung fu moves that make Ip Man intrigued by this man's identity. And that's when a bunch of men kick the door in, led by Miss Qing Chuan. She says she'll give 3 gold chips to the person who brings her Ip Man alive. Chaos ensues, while the midwife is still screaming that she needs hot water. Ip Man manages to get the door open just a little to hand it to her. The woman is not even a little shocked at the dozens of gangsters frozen in battle. She simply says that these people are always fighting and then shuts the door again. Wing Sing is worried about all those noises coming from her own house, but the midwife tells her it's just a crowd of cheerful visitors to celebrate her baby. This midwife is a tough woman. In a second opportunity to observe the stranger's kung fu abilities, Ribby decides to ask for his help. His appeals are ignored until he comes up with a decent offer. Ribby says he'll pay for his wine for 2 years. That does the trick. Finding herself up against two skilled kung fu masters, Miss Qing Chuan decides to retreat. She still screams her vows to avenge San Yi by taking Ip Man's life, but he doesn't even hold it against her. He simply says he'll have an explanation in 3 days. As soon as the gangsters leave the house, Ip Man hears his baby boy crying for the first time. A few hours later, Ip Man is feeding his wife some chicken soup to restore her strength. Ribby shows up at the door to tell him that the Japanese Commerce Chamber was all clear, but he doesn't mention anything about the loads of cash they found sitting there. A little strange, don't you think? Anyway, Ip Man doesn't seem to suspect anything and just tells Ribby to keep an eye on the axes and their ports. Once he leaves, he starts talking to Wing Sing about how chaotic things are right now and how dangerous it can be. She cuts him short immediately, refusing to leave him. She says she only feels safe near him. Now that his wife and kids are asleep and Ribby was dismissed, Ip Man has one more person to deal with. He tells the stranger about his late kung fu master, the great Chan Washeng. He once told Ip Man and the other pupils about his brother. Uncle Luang, as he called him, was a man who led a free life and enjoyed wine very much. The stranger refuses to give him a clear answer, but it soon becomes obvious that Ip Man is right. This is Uncle Luang, and he had tracked Ip Man once the rumors about the Japanese threat started. He's here to help him, but it seems like Uncle Luang never moves a finger without placing some kind of bet. So he agrees to further train Ip Man in the art of kung fu, but only if he succeeds in getting him out of the chair in 5 moves or less. Ip Man apologizes in advance and proceeds, fully impressing his new teacher. The next day, Ribby takes Ip Man to one of the Axis ports because they found opium there. Ip Man tells Ribby to go to his house to take care of Wing Sing and the baby because he must go to the Axis headquarters. And there's something already going on there. Miss Qing Chuan is telling the men that whoever brings her Ip Man's head will be the new leader. An unexpected Japanese voice responds to that with mockery. It's Mr. Sasaki, the wealthy chairman. Clearly knowing a lot about him, she immediately mentions San Yi's rules. The Axis have always been allowed to do any business in Foshan, with the only exception of opium trade. That means Sasaki is not welcome here. But then he asks, "Are you sure?" with a big smile on his treacherous face. Miss Qing Chuan looks around in complete disbelief. The Axis have been corrupted, all of them. She also realizes that it was Sasaki who ordered the hit on her father. Not much of a damsel in distress, she engages in a battle with dozens of men while Sasaki pretends to pay his respects to San Yi. When the fight gets a bit too hard and it looks like she might lose, Ip Man shows up to give her a hand. He tells her to leave and seek shelter. After he beats them all one by one, Sasaki tells him to be careful and insinuates that his family might be in danger. And sadly, he's not really bluffing. While the murder couple comes right through his front door, police officers swarm into the Axis hall and surround Ip Man. Chief Yuan apologizes to Sasaki for the delay. Ip Man is disgusted and tells the chief that if all Chinese were like him, they would soon be dominated by everyone else. Chief Yuan ignores that and tells him to leave town if he doesn't want to go to jail. By the time he gets home, the murder couple is not a problem anymore. Uncle Luang has taken care of that, and then he also drags Ribby out of the house, as he can't seem to take a hint when Wing Sing starts an argument with her husband. She's upset that he only cares about his work and hasn't even named the baby. She also says she doesn't want her son to be fighting all the time like he does. Her words make Ip Man remember something that happened when he was a child. A small kid is being bullied by 3 others when a masked boy shows up to help him. He tells the others to let the little one go, and that makes them even angrier. As we only see the masked boy and the small kid hopping away in the end, we can imagine the bullies must have been taken down. Back to present-day Foshan, Sasaki is furious at the news. The Commerce Chamber's storehouses have caught fire and exposed the opium trade. Police suspect the fire was started by a recently active vigilante, a man in a black mask that has been dubbed the Black Knight by the newspapers. Do you have any idea who this masked hero could be? Wing Sing sure does. Obviously, her lecture on childhood violence had the opposite effect than she intended. And that's when the karate master, Mr. Tokugawa, arrives in Foshan amid a crowd of reporters. Introducing himself as a major in the Japanese army, he describes his visit as a joint effort to connect the martial arts across borders. Foshan is known for its kung fu masters, and it is a benefit to both countries if such knowledge gets shared. And to achieve that goal, Tokugawa is organizing a martial arts contest in town. Talking privately to Sasaki, Tokugawa's tone is much more aggressive. The actual purpose of the contests is to force the Chinese to adopt Japanese Japanese culture. He's convinced that their kung fu is no match for their karate, and his goal is to begin a broader domination. Sasaki brings up the possibility of a military invasion, but the major prefers a more subtle approach. The woman serving the two men suddenly attacks them, but Tokugawa blocks her. That's actually Miss Qing Chuan, and she is soon joined by the Black Knight. For a self-proclaimed prodigy in martial arts, Tokugawa calls in a bunch of guards pretty quickly. Then he has the nerve to invite them both to the contest, given their impressive skills. This time, Miss Qing Chuan got really hurt, so Ip Man tells Ribby to get her some medicine at the drugstore. He gets abducted by the Japanese on his way back. They take him to a bathhouse where Sasaki politely inquires about why Ribby took the money if he couldn't offer anything in exchange. The boy quickly spills it all, including the Black Knight's identity and Miss Qing Chuan's whereabouts. Mildly pleased, Sasaki tells him he'll get a present. He takes him to the next room and shows him they have Chief Yuan. Ribby gets to choose which one will survive, Yuan or himself. Sasaki gives him the gun and steps outside, protecting his delicate ears. A gunshot is heard and Ribby comes out of the room as the new chief of police. The medicine for Miss Qing Chuan is delivered in person by Sasaki, who gives Ip Man a warning. San Yi's funeral is tomorrow and the Japanese are working together with Foshan police to put on a show that will destroy the reputation of the deceased forever. And this infamous Black Knight will be joining San Yi if he dares to show up. Now, stuff has just got too real for Wing Sing. Ip Man takes her and the baby to the train station with the promise to pick them up at the same place in a month. At night, Ip Man has a taste of Uncle Luang's very unconventional training. Apparently, it takes a lot of wine for him to impart some of his knowledge. In his defense, we can see him manage to perform kung fu moves without spilling much booze. In the morning, Ip Man has a major hangover. When he sees that the mask is gone, he realizes that last night was an elaborate trap. Uncle Luang is taking his place as the Black Knight at San Yi's funeral. Ip Man and Miss Qing Chuan rush there but cannot stop what happens next. Uncle Luang is in the black mask when he interrupts the ceremony to uphold the Chinese honor in the face of the Japanese threat. He says he prefers death to surrender, and his wish is swiftly granted, to Ip Man's horror. A few days later, there's a press conference about the martial arts event. Sasaki says the famous Foshan Kung Fu must be overrated, since no one has even dared to enter the contest. That's when Ip Man makes an entrance and declares he wants to participate as the Black Knight. The big day comes and Ribby is addressing the crowd to explain the event. He says this is a cultural exchange between China and Japan, and then stresses the fact that this is all about friendship. Right as Tokugawa and Ip Man get started, Sasaki wonders why Ip Man is still standing if he has ordered Ribby to poison him right before the fight. Realizing that he has been disobeyed, Sasaki doesn't think twice before firing his gun. Ribby falls off the balcony and Ip Man screams his name in despair. Tokugawa says that a true martial artist is distracted by nothing. That was a mistake because now Ip Man is furious. He wins the battle very fast and the crowd goes wild. Prepared for this kind of inconvenience, Sasaki sends armed men to take care of it, but the people of Foshan won't let that happen. They invade the stage and form a human shield around their hero. When the Foshan police arrive, they seem to be actually protecting the Chinese for a change. And guess who's in charge? Chief Yuan, who was never harmed that day at the bathhouse. It was all a trick and a chance for the chief to be redeemed. Tokugawa doesn't accept his defeat very well and says he'll end his own life, but he won't go before giving Sasaki a piece of his mind. He tells him he's not worthy of being called a Japanese man because he has no honor. Pretty much proving that point, Sasaki holds the sword as if he were saving Tokugawa, but he's actually waiting for the poison to kick in and denying him a noble death. A few months later, karma pays a visit in the form of Miss Qing Chuan and her axes. And this is the end. This was a recap of the 2019 movie Ip Man, Kung Fu Master by Beijing Kai Pictures and Bell Media, starring Yu Hangto and Xiaohu Tong. Which character did you like more? Ip Man, Uncle Luang, or Miss Qing Chuan? Do you also feel like learning some Kung Fu now? Or is it just me? Let us know in the comments below with #CinemaRecap. Until next time.